morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to all of you watching online as well. So glad to have you today. If you don't know, my name is Ralph Emerson. I have the privilege of being the senior pastor here at the Rising Star Church, the Star, as we call it. And so we are so glad you came and joined with us today. And so we are excited because we are beginning a brand new series today. Brand new series today. Brand new series that I'm excited about. And the series title is Can We Talk? Can We Talk? It is this reality, right, that we have to talk to God. So this isn't a series, right? There's a popular song by Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk, right? Can we talk? Where y'all at? For a minute, girl, I want to know your name. Can we talk for a minute? Okay, let me stop. I gotta remember where I am. Let me stop. Right? It's the idea, can we talk? Now, we're not talking about talking to a girl. We'll have a series about that later. But it is the idea of can we talk to God? A series on prayer. A series on prayer. If you got here on time today, no shade, you notice we started service a little differently today, right? That we started with prayer because we are in a series on prayer. And it is a series based on Luke chapter 18, verse 1 that said this. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. They should always pray and not give up. This is a series. Here we go. It's very specific. This is a series about the practice and the seasons of prayer. It is about the practice and the seasons of prayer that we should always pray in every season and in every circumstance. Amen. Are we ready for a word? Good. Stand with me and turn to the gospel according to Luke. Luke chapter 6, verse number 12. Luke chapter 6, verse number 12. We're going to read the New International Version. If you have a different version, I promise you'll be able to follow along all the same. I hear pages turning. I love it. It's your paper Bible. Go ahead. Amen. Luke chapter 6. If you have it, say, I got it. If you need more time, say, hold up. Okay, good. It's on the wall anyway. Here we go. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas, son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. I want to tag this text with this title, Can We Talk, ... because I have a decision to make. You may be seated. Can we talk? Because I have a decision to make. This first message is how we pray for purpose. How we pray in a season of purpose. I've discovered something. Decisions are difficult. You know that. You quiet, but you know this. If you've ever tried to get a group of people to decide where they gonna eat. If you got a spouse, to try to get your spouse to decide where you gonna eat, that question alone can start a fight. Are you hungry? Yep. Are you hungry? Yep. What do you want to eat? I don't know. Okay. Well, do you know what you want to eat? Sure. How about Mexican? I don't want that. You just said you didn't know what you want. Decisions are often hard, especially the decisions that determine the direction of our lives. Here it is. Purpose involves intentional daily decisions. And the worst thing in the world is to feel like you made a bad decision. Well, the word decide is a Latin word that I'm getting ready to butcher here. De caedere. De caedere. Don't even worry about that. This is what I want you to understand. Decide means de meaning off, and caedere meaning to cut. So to decide means to cut off something. In other words, decisions are more about what you remove than what you receive. In other words, decisions are about often letting go of options, not how many you hold on to. And the problem is what keeps us from cutting some stuff is the fear of cutting the wrong thing. So instead of cutting, we keep practicing keeping or hoarding, and then find ourselves lost in mess and confusion because we have too much going on. We're scared to cut off that person. We're scared to cut off that relationship. We're scared to cut off that food option or that restaurant or that job opportunity or that text thread or that app. And so instead of cutting, we are left confused. And the only way you can determine what to cut is if you pray. That's my sermon in a sentence right there. The only way for you to determine what is necessary to cut in your life is you have to talk to God about it. Because prayer does two things for us. It does two things. It first sharpens our sight. It sharpens our sight because often we don't cut because we don't know what to cut. We don't see well. We don't perceive well. But it not only sharpens our sight, it also sharpens our knife. Prayer helps you cut completely because we cut and we like to leave stuff lingering. We want to leave the door cracked a little bit. We want to leave that window slightly open. And prayer says, no, I need you to cut it completely. I need you to not just change their name in your phone. I need you to block and delete. I need you to cut completely. This is where we are in our text because Jesus is illustrating to us the power of prayer before you make a decision. He is teaching us how prayer is important in regard to purpose. Even Jesus prays in regard to his purpose. Luke chapter 6 is synoptic to Mark chapter 3. It is the same and it's similar versions of this text where Jesus picks the 12 disciples. Now, this is what we got to understand, that Jesus is God. It is what we would call the hypostatic union, that Jesus is fully God and Jesus is fully man. Therefore, omniscience is in Jesus. What am I saying? That means Jesus is all-knowing. Jesus knows everything. He knows everything there is to be known. So that means he really already knows what his purpose is, and yet he still prays about it. So how is it that we lack what Jesus knows and we don't know everything like Jesus knows, and yet we're out here with decisions to make and purpose to fulfill, and we won't talk to God about it? Jesus, in his godness, says, I won't make a decision until first I have a discussion. I won't make a decision about my life until I talk to God. Let me help you real quick. You want to check to see if your relationships are what they're supposed to be? If you ever want to check your relationships quickly, if you really want to see if they're the one, or if they're the right person for you, or if you're in the right circle, or if you're connected to the right people, or if they mean you well, the next time somebody asks you something to do, or says something to you, or asks you to go somewhere, just ask them real quick, did you pray about that? And see how they respond. See how the people in your circle respond when you bring up prayer, because Jesus, being God, still prays. In our text, Jesus gives practices for prayer in the season of praying for purpose, because he understands that so many of us have decisions to make. Do I go back to school or not? I'm retired. What do I do now? I'm close to retirement age. What is the next step I should take? How do I help others in this season of my life? Is this the right person, or the right place, or the right career? Am I in the right profession? Am I doing the right thing? Do I stay? Do I go? And Jesus says when we have those kinds of decisions, we need to stop with God and say, Lord, can we talk? Because I have a decision I need to make. Here we go. The first thing Jesus illustrates for us when we have a decision to make is he shows us the place of his prayer. He shows us the place of his prayer. Luke chapter 6, verse 12 starts like this. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray. Jesus has a specific location and site for the prayer. He goes to a mountain. He makes his way to a mountainside. He follows in the pattern of Moses, who knew how to go to God on a mountain to pray. Jesus knows, he understands that Moses went on a mountain. And when Moses went on Mount Sinai, he went on Mount Sinai to talk to God, to have a conversation. And when he goes on Mount Sinai to have a conversation, in Exodus chapter 19, verse 24, and Exodus 24:12, his first conversation is about helpers for his own purpose. It is about helpers. Moses prayed for helpers for his purpose, because here's what I need you to get, that regardless of the decisions in life you need to make, it cannot be accomplished by yourself. You are not going to be able to do anything God asks of you to do on your own. There is no purpose that is disconnected from other people. God has always had it designed and desired for us to exist in community. This is why you got to keep coming to church. The church is a community, because you aren't praying to see if you need people. You go up on a mountain to find out who are the right people. Moses prays for helpers, but then in Numbers 27, write it down, N-U-M 27:15. In Numbers 27, verses 15 through 23, Moses also went on a mountain to talk to God about his successor. Moses went on a mountain to pray for his successor, because purpose is not only about who I partner with, it is also about who I pour into. This is why I love the fact that our church has 5 generations in it, because it ain't just about what God calls you to do. It's also about how you can help somebody else do what they're called to do. It was equally as important for Moses to pray about what he was called to do and who would continue it after him. Well, Jesus goes on the mountainside to literally do both things. He goes on a mountainside because he's got to pick his disciples. The disciples are going to be his partners while he's on earth, and they're going to be his successors when he leaves. And the only way it was discerned, the only way Jesus could figure out who to pick, just like Moses had to know who to pick, is that he had to go on a mountainside to pray. Now, you may hear that, and you might get concerned. Reverend Washington here, mountain, he got a problem. He got a problem because he ain't getting ready to go up on some mountain. Or some of you may say, you mean to tell me I got to get on a plane ticket and find a mountainside somewhere? I got to get in the Rocky Mountain chain or the Appalachian Mountain chain and find a mountain to pray? Do I got to get to Colorado to pray? That's not what I'm saying. Mountainside is representative specifically of the landscape, because when they walked around, they mostly walked on flat land and in marshes and down in the valley. What Luke is trying to help us understand is that Jesus got away from the normal place to pray. Not only did he get away from the normal place, he had to get away from his everyday people to pray. In other words, he says mountainside because he's trying to get above where he is normally so that he can hear God. Let me say it another way, that he has to get above the crowd to pray. He's got to rise above his circumstance to pray. What am I trying to tell you? That maybe you struggle to hear God because you're too busy trying to have a conversation in the crowd. You trying to talk to God, and they trying to show you their phone. You trying to talk to God, and they trying to pull up something on Instagram. You trying to talk to God, the TV on, the newspaper, the magazine, the bills due, the car running. You in the grocery store. You in rush hour. Your homegirl on the phone, and you trying to talk to God and wonder, hold on, I'm trying to hear God. No, you got to get above the crowd and pray. We got too many people walking around with our divine dialogue device, looking for God. Like the Verizon and the Sprint man talking about, Lord, can you hear me now? Can you go, Lord, repeat that. I didn't hear what you said. Because you got to get on a mountain. You've got to learn how to get all by yourself. Because Jesus understands that this is too important to be distracted and deterred from hearing the Father. And so he designates a place to pray. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, if you got to run into a bathroom stall, if you got to find a closet, if you got to walk outside by yourself, if you got to hide in a stairwell, if you got to find a park at night, you've got to find a place to pray. You got to learn to put that phone on Do Not Disturb and say, listen, I have to talk to you in about 20 minutes because I need to have a conversation with the Lord. No, I wish I had somebody who knows I need to have a little talk with Jesus. And I know you got great advice. I know there are all the suggestions in the world and all of this wisdom from Oprah and all of these people. But listen, I need a moment with the Lord. I got to find a place to pray. Secondly, Jesus illustrates the period of his prayer. In other words, we see the length and duration of his prayer. Let's read all of verse 12, Luke 6:12. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. Spent the night praying to God. Jesus prays all night long. This isn't some short fly-by-night prayer. This isn't, now I lay me down to sleep. Pray the Lord my soul to keep. Some traditions could suggest that this is what we would call travailing, that it is laborious, that it required a bunch of energy and effort around this conversation that he is having with his daddy. Listen to me. We should always pray. Now, I'm honest. We'll get there. Yes, there are moments when all we have time for and space for is, Lord, help me. Sometimes all we can say is, Lord, do it, and that's okay. But there are some things that require a longer period of prayer. There are some moments in our life that are going to require us to sacrifice some other stuff so that we can spend some time in the presence of God. Because here's the truth, that we often have hurried prayers because we're trying to hurry God. We like to rush through prayer because we want to rush him to do something. We rush what we say because we want to rush his response. But some decisions, y'all, are too important to rush. There are a whole lot of us that ended up in some trouble because we rushed. We might not have had some issues in our life record had we not rushed, had we took our time and talked to God. And this is what you need to understand. In case you didn't know, let's be real elementary here because I want you to get it. Prayer is a conversation. It is a dialogue with the divine. You talk to God, and God talks to you. You talk to God, and God talks to you. That means prayer requires you to talk. And prayer requires you to listen. Okay. Now the text does not denote, it does not say, it does not specify how much time Jesus spent in both postures. What we know, though, is that both postures are required. In other words, we got to get it all out, but we also got to sit and listen to everything God has to say. Okay, let me see if I can help you. When I was young and I was still living at home, I never forget we used to have this routine about how we would leave and get to church and we would call each other. We would call back, and then those of us who all lived on the same side of town, Wanda got some of these calls. We would call back and let each other know what was going on as we drove. And I never forget, I was running behind. My father had called me. He said, all right, son, I forgot something. I need you to go in the office and get such and such. No problem. And then make sure you set the alarm. I got it. And then make sure you, hey, man, hey, I got it. Let me get in the car so that I can get to church. Let me get in the car. I hung up on my daddy. I did. Hung up, got in the truck, took off, got on the freeway. I'm on 20. I passed 35. Right when I get to Oak Grove, all I see is red lights. I knew then I had a problem. All I saw was red lights, and it hit me. I'm going to be late because I'm stuck in traffic. I called my dad. Watch. I called my dad. I said, Dad, he said, you going to be late. I said, yeah, how you know? He said, because you at Oak Grove. I said, how you know I'm at Oak Grove? Because you in traffic. How you know there's traffic? Because I called you to tell you when I was on my way, I could see the traffic up at campus. It was already starting to bag up. So I was calling everybody to tell them take 35. But you had already passed 35, son. So you're going to have to sit there. This is no lie. This is what he said. He said, had you not hung up so fast, you might have prevented yourself from being stuck where you didn't want to be. No, I'm trying to help some people pray in here. Had you not hung up with God so fast, had you not stopped praying so fast, had you sat there for a little bit and actually listened to the Lord talk to you, maybe you wouldn't have messed up and got with the wrong person or went to the wrong place or did the wrong thing or been connected in the wrong circle. You got to learn to sit and say, God, I don't care how long it takes. God, I don't care how long you take, but I'll listen to you. I need to hear what you have to say. It's a period of prayer. I ran into trouble because I would not be patient enough to be still and hear everything my Father had to say. Yeah. We have to be careful that we like short prayers only. You got to be careful that you only like short, casual prayers. Jackie Hill Perry says this: be careful of praying casual prayers as if you need casual power. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jackie. I need real power. I need power to overcome. I need power to take a risk. I need power to try again. I need power to get off that floor and keep going. I need power to move forward. I need power to forgive. I need power to take a step. I think I got a witness in here that know little prayer, little power. But much prayer, much power. There's the place of prayer. There's the period of prayer. Then Jesus gives us the performance from prayer. What do I mean by that? Prayer requires a response. What do I mean by that? That after I pray, I do. Okay, I will. That after I hear, I do. Okay. You don't hear just to hear, y'all. You hear to obey. The Jews, the Hebrews knew they had this word, 3 letters, Shema. The Shema literally means to hear. But it also means to obey. It is the Hebrew understanding. It is every parent in here's understanding that if you heard me, I expect you to do what I said. If you didn't do what I said, I'm assuming you didn't hear me, because if you heard me, you're supposed to do it. So here we go. Jesus goes on a mountain, spends all night. What is he praying for? He's praying because he's got to pick his disciples. Hope you understand the context of the text. It says he's with his disciples, but then he picks his disciples because he realizes everybody around him isn't for him. I just tried to help you. I help myself. Everybody connected to you isn't good for you. And so he's got to pick the 12 out of the multitude of the people who are around him, because everything and everyone that's available is not always beneficial. Okay, now here we go. I got to sit here. I need you to get this. Purpose is about taking a step. It is about doing something. Deciding is about taking a step. Let me apologize on behalf of all of the Instagram sages and savants and the years of magic romanticized history that lied to you, that said purpose was some romantic magical experience you were going to have. I apologize, seriously, that we got caught up in this. You were going to sit in a pew, and one day the sky was going to open up, and this light was going to shine and hit you in the stomach. And then the voice was going to hit you in your head, and it was going to tell you that you were going to do these 17 things by this date, and this is what you need to accomplish. That's not what purpose looks like. Let me tell you what your purpose is. Here's the setup. Your purpose is to glorify God. No, I'm for real. I'm trying to help you. Your purpose is that in everything you do it to glorify God. No, you still not understand it. You need to understand purpose isn't about you. Purpose is about him. And what happens is you get a blessing and a benefit because you serve him. Because you glorify him, he takes care of you. Your purpose is about taking a step. It is intentionally making daily decisions for the glory of God every day. Jesus doesn't pray and then wait for God to open up heaven and shine a light. He prays and he picks. He prays and he does something. Brandon Clack says this is so powerful, that periods are not the indicators for the next steps in purpose. This is what he meant. Watch what he says. In other words, sometimes we got to learn how to take steps with question marks. You got to learn how to pray and then move and not have all the answers. You got to learn how to pray and make a decision and not always know how everything is going to work out. We want to wait to move until we have full paragraphs with periods. We want to pray and tell God all of our trouble, and then we want God to say, go here at this time, and then you're going to meet this person, and they're going to say this thing, and then you're going to do this other thing, and then all of this going to happen, and then you're going to become everything that I called you to be. But I'm here to tell you, it don't work like that. You got to ask Abraham that often all God says is, get up and go. Go where? I'll tell you later. To who? You'll find out. How long? You will see. But how will I pay for it? I got you. How long will it take? Long enough. I just need you to pick. I just need you to go. I just need you to do something. Purpose requires picking with questions. Because decisions aren't always made with everything defined. That I didn't know everything. I didn't know everything when I picked, but I got to make a decision to say, God, I trust you that if I pick, you also got the power to turn me around. I got to pray and know that the power of God is so good that even if I don't make the best decision, I'm still in the hands of the best God. That even when the clay is marred in his hands, he'll put me back on the wheels and reshape me and mold me and to make me into everything that he has called me to be. But you got to take a step and go. I'm sorry, you're not going to have all the answers, all the science, all the understanding, all the know-how, but you got to say that God I serve is bigger than this issue. He's bigger than this doctor's report, than this medicine, than this diagnosis, than this outcome. And God, I'll trust you and take a step and wait on you again and take another step and wait on you again and take another step. It may get rocky and bumpy and quiet and dark sometimes, but God, I trust you that you are a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path, that you are the joy of my salvation and the peace that surpasses all understanding. And if I don't have all the answers, if I don't have it figured all out, I serve a God who's big enough to pick me up and turn me around. Hey God, I thank you. I gotta pick. I gotta pick. I gotta pick. I'm done. I gotta pick. Jesus shows us that we have a decision to make. And when we have a decision to make, we have a place of prayer. We have a period of prayer. There is the performance from prayer. If you didn't shout, I might lose you here. And then there's the problem after prayer. Yeah, it's a problem after prayer. Let's read the whole text. Maybe you caught it, maybe you didn't. One of those days, Luke 6, verse 12. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. And when morning came, he called his disciples to him, chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas, son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. Judas Iscariot, the son of Carioth. Judas, who Luke writes, who became a traitor. Watch what I just said here. Jesus has purpose to fulfill and precedes it with prayer. Picks a place, spends some time, decides to pick, and still ends up with pain. Jesus finds a place, has a period, decides to pick, and still has a problem. Why? Because his 12th pick in the draft is Judas Iscariot. Judas, text says, who is the traitor. Judas, who was embezzling from Jesus and sold Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver. We talking about Judas. Can I suggest, though, because it is Jesus, he is not absent-minded. He is not oblivious to who Judas is. Here's the difference. He knowingly picks Judas. Jesus is omniscient. He's all-knowing. God is all-knowing. He knowingly picks Judas. Now, here we go. Here's the difference between us and Jesus. We don't know. We don't know what Jesus knows. We can't see what Jesus sees. But Judas looks a lot like the boy you grew up with. Judas looks a lot like your homegirl you've been friends with. Judas looks a lot like your cousin you love so much. But Jesus still picks Judas to illustrate to us that Judas comes with the decision. Okay, in other words, this is what I need you to understand, that problems are attached to purpose. That divine direction does not eliminate difficulty. There is no get out of hard free card. There is no get out of problem free card. This is why you need to pray, though, because prayer builds you up to receive the blessing of Judas. Yeah, you didn't like that. I knew you wouldn't. I'm going to say it again, though. Prayer builds you up to receive the blessing that Judas is. I know you don't like that. You say, ain't no way in the world Judas was a blessing. Yes, it was, because Judas was necessary. Okay, let's go home. The prolific power and purpose and promise of who Jesus is not fulfilled without Judas. I got Bible. In Luke chapter 4, verse 16. In Matthew chapter 12, verse 1. In Mark chapter 2, verse 23. In Luke chapter 6, verse 1. In John chapter 5. And in Matthew chapter 21, verse 46. All begin stories where the Pharisees and the crowd would say, we need to find a way to arrest Jesus and kill him. All of these are beginning of stories where the crowd wanted to stone and kill Jesus, where they would confer together and try to figure out how they could get him. Judas fixes that problem for them. Judas says, no problem. Y'all been wondering for 3 years how you can get him. Y'all been wondering for 3 years how y'all can catch him up and kill him. I got you. Give me 30 pieces of silver. I'll not only show you who he is, I'll walk right up to him and kiss him on the cheek. You still not understanding why I call it a blessing. Because if Judas don't show up, Jesus don't get to the cross. I wish I had got. The cross was Jesus' purpose. The cross is why Jesus came. I understand the cross to you and I, the cross to Judas, the cross to the Pharisees was pain and persecution and perversion. The cross was embarrassing and belittling. The cross was to make you feel bad and to be cast out. But for Jesus, the cross was purpose. For Jesus, the cross was power. For Jesus, the cross was the promise. And if there is no cross, then there is no crown. Do we have to wait to Easter to say, God, I thank you for the cross. I thank you that you died. And here's what you have to wrestle with, that success does not come without seasons of suffering. This is why you pray, because prayer becomes the armor of protection around the reality of pain. Prayer becomes your bodysuit when the enemy shows up. You have to pray so that you can tell the difference between the pain that's pushing you forward and the pain that's holding you back. You got to pray because you got to understand, is this pain to grow me or is this pain to kill me? This is why you pray, because the weapons that the enemy forms, they'll form, but they will not prosper. So you got to pray so that what the enemy throws bounces off. But you got to pray so that what God allows pushes you forward. You got to pray because no matter who you are, how old you are, how long you've been in the faith, how strong you think you are, trouble will show up. And you got to say, God, that's all right because I trust you and I'm leaning on your everlasting arm. And I know when I call on you, you'll let me know if this is just a season to grow me up, if this is just a season to raise me up. You got to pray. You got to pray. Here it is. Here it is. Prayer is the opportunity, hear me well. Prayer is the opportunity for a heavenly omnipotence to move your opinion and give you God's option. Sit up in your seat. Hear what I said. Prayer is for heavenly omnipotence, for God's power to move your opinion out the way and give you his best option. Because in case you didn't know, you ain't that smart. I'm not that wise. I don't know that much. And I need the power of God to invade my decisions. That sometimes the thing that looks good, he can tell me it's not good. Because everything that looks good to you is not good for you. This is why you got to pray. Because I don't care, listen, I don't care if you're 16 or 66, you got a decision to make. You got to wake up tomorrow at that grocery store, on that job, in that class, with those grandkids, in that car, and you got to say, God, I need to make sure I'm glorifying you. When my boss on my last nerve, am I still glorifying you? When it doesn't seem like I can get everything worked out, I'm still have to glorify you. Lord, can we talk? Because I have a decision to make. And that decision is in regard to my purpose.